Hello and welcome to a new series that I'm going to call Risk of Rain in Depth. On today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at Huntress. We're going to be looking at what her abilities do, what they're good for, items that go well with her kit, and finally, the best loadout to choose when you're hopping into a run. Coming in at a whopping 90 base health and a base damage of 12, Huntress can do a lot of damage with her abilities, but she does have low health, so I'd say she's more of a glass cannon type character, and you should be killing everything around her with ease and hopefully not taking too much damage. Of her 4 basic abilities, Huntress has alternatives for everything but her secondary. First on the list is her primary strafe. This is her basic attack and you'll be using this most of the time. This ability is classified as agile, meaning you can use it while you're sprinting, which can go hand in hand with a couple of items that we'll talk about in the item section of the video. Huntress will shoot an arrow every half a second at approximately 150% damage, which is 18 damage at level 1. This ability is affected by Huntress's lock-on, which means you can't actually miss the attack if you're in the specified range. I'd say this is more of a short to medium range distance, and this could be problematic considering, you're a 90 HP archer. You're basically a glass cannon, so you gotta be careful. Strafe also has a proc coefficient of 1, meaning you'll be proccing your items fairly regularly. It's kind of average. I'd say the highest any proc goes is 1. I haven't seen any other procs higher than that. And that's all there is for Huntress's strafe ability. Moving on, we have Flurry. Flurry is her alternate primary, meaning you can pick between this and Strafe. This ability is locked at first, and to unlock it, you'll have to land a killing blow on every possible hit from your laser glaive. We'll talk about the laser glaive after Flurry, so you'll know what I'm talking about soon. Using this, we'll draw back a volley of 3 arrows for 100% damage each, with a 1.3 second fire rate to go along with it. Something to note about the Flurry is that crits will cause the Huntress to fire 6 arrows instead of 3. The proc chance on Flurry is 0.7 per arrow, so overall you won't feel too much of a change to how often your items proc, but it is technically less. And just like Strafe, Flurry is also considered agile, which means you can use it while sprinting, so it is good for that. And the last thing of note for Flurry is that it is affected by the lockdown Huntress ability, which means you do have to be in that short to medium long range. The next ability that the Huntress has is the laser glaive. Personally, I'd say this one is the best in her kit. Using this ability causes the hunter to throw a little boomerang that bounces from enemy to enemy up to 6 times. The glaive starts at 250% damage and will scale up by 10% for each consecutive bounce. This means that the ability is capable of proccing Renault's and Kajaro's bans, but specifically on the last 2 hits. This is another ability that's affected by the lock-on ability the Huntress has, so it will be able to go through walls and auto-lock on targets. Lastly, the proc coefficient for each bounce is 0.8, so you'll be seeing quite a few things proccing, especially if you land all 6 bounces. Now we've taken a look at Huntress's utility. First is Blink. This ability does exactly what the name suggests. It will blink the player forward a considerable distance, but is restricted by the fact that you can only blink forward. A couple things to note about Blink is that you can blink vertically, and that the distance you blink scales with your movement speed, so you can get really far if you have a lot of movement speed. The other utility that the Huntress has is Phase Blink. Just like Flurry, you need to unlock this ability, and this can be done very easily. All you need to do is hold 12 crowbars at once, and if you find a 3D printer, then you're set. Phase Blink is similar in concept to Blink, but there are some key differences. The first being that Phase Blink is actually an agile ability, therefore once used you will stay sprinting. Phase Blink is also different to Blink because instead of one big blink, you blink a short distance but can hold up to 3 charges at 2 seconds cooldown each. And the last thing to talk about with this ability is you can't gain any vertical distance, but you can teleport backwards or sideways, so it is very good for dodging attacks. Okay, now with utility out of the way, we can take a look at her specials. The one you start off with is Arrow Rain. This one is also really simple. Basically what happens is your character will go up diagonally backwards and then you can pick a spot where you can rain down arrows. Now because this gives you some vertical momentum, it can be used to get to places that are higher than you can normally jump. With a massive cooldown of 12 seconds, this is one you should prioritize to land, because when you miss it you lose out on a lot of damage. This ability does 330% damage per second for 6 seconds, which in total leaves you with about 2090% damage, or in other words, 250 damage at level 1. Arrow Rain will also give enemies the slowing debuff, which helps keep them within the range. Now for proc chance, this one is pretty low, coming in at 0.2 per hit, so you won't be seeing a lot of items being procced at all. Huntress's last ability is Ballista, and I gotta say, this one is fun. First, you need to unlock this, and to do that, you'll need to survive on a stage 3 map without taking any damage. This is by far the hardest challenge for Huntress, but if you hop into a run with a friend, and just stay back while they do all the work, it can be done fairly quickly. Just like Arrow Rain, Ballista has a cooldown of 12 seconds and will launch you diagonally backwards into the air. You have 3 charges at 900% damage each, which will be around 108 damage at level 1. This is more than enough damage to proc the elemental bands, and with a proc chance of 1 per charge, you'll be procking your items at the same rate as Strafe, which is pretty good. Okay, now that we've gone through all the abilities, let's get into what items will go well with each one. Starting off with one of the best white items for Huntress, the backup magazine. This pairs well with her because this laser glaive is so strong, having extra charges just makes sense. Just one backup magazine can add so much crowd damage to her kit. Next on the list is crit glasses, predatory instinct, and Harvester Scythe. These are all items you want to get anyway, but specifically if you are running Flurry. So in case you don't know, each crit glasses gives you 10% crit chance, and both Predatory Instinct and Harvester Scythe give you 5%. Because Flurry fires 6 arrows per crit, having a high crit chance is a must. At 100% crit chance, Flurry is doing 54% more damage than Strafe will be doing. So if you're going for longer runs where you can get high crits, it'd be best to use Flurry. But if you're a one loop type of guy, then definitely go for Strafe. Another great item that goes well with Huntress is Rose Buckler. This item gives the player 30 armor while sprinting, so this is a great combination with the abilities like Strafe, Flurry, and Phase Blink, because they all are agile so you can use them while sprinting. And for red items, I'd say the only one to prioritize is Alien Head because the Huntress relies a lot on her abilities. So having them up 25% more of the time is great. Now we'll talk about the best loadout for Huntress. Like I said before, the debate between Strafe and Flurry is purely based on how long you want your run to go. Because the longer you're in your run, the more likely you'll be able to increase your crit chance. The only downside about Flurry is that in the beginning you will feel nerfed because Flurry without any crit is 22% weaker than Strafe. And obviously for your secondary you're going to have to use the laser glaive because, that's the only option that they offer. Moving on to utility, I'd say this one is completely subjective because there are benefits to both blink and phase blink that the other can't give you. So depending on if you want to be blinking back and forth every 2 seconds or you want to have a huge blink that can get you to higher ground, this one's totally your choice. Finally, we got the specials. This one isn't even a competition. If you're not taking Ballista, you're doing something wrong. Arrow Rain is just way too inconsistent to rely on because enemies can walk straight out of the affected area, and Ballista is the clear winner here. And if you have it, you should definitely be using it. To sum up, the only thing you don't need to pay attention to is Ballista versus Arrow Rain because Ballista is the clear winner. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. If you want more Risk of Rain in-depth videos just like this one, let me know in the comments or with a like or dislike. And if you'd like, it'd be great for you to subscribe, because I have way more content planned to come to this channel soon.